Good afternoon. My name is Jamie Coulter, and I'm the CEO of Raymond James in Canada. Joining me today is Mark Hougen, a portfolio manager in our Calgary corporate office. Mark and I are going to chat today about showcasing the example of a successful transition of an advisor from one firm to ours. Talk about the pre and post transition support that was provided to Mark and his team by our organization, and then highlight some of the values that make Raymond James a great option for independent advisors. Mark, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks for the invitation.
Mark, after 2 decades at one of Canada's big banks, you transitioned to Raymond James in May of 2021. And I'm curious about your motivations and the decision-making process that led you to make this move. Can you provide some insight into that?
Yes, so thank you. So it was pretty clear in the last 4 or 5 years that the firm that I was at before, the priority had changed. The most important person in every discussion should have been our client, but it wasn't. It was always about the bank. The bank was the number one priority, and that was their focus. There was a bit of a push towards proprietary product, which was completely antithetical to what we believe. As a fiduciary, our job is to always do what's in the best interest of the clients. And we just could not do that any longer at a bank-owned firm. So that was really the tipping point. There's no one specific thing, but when we just looked year after year, every single year got harder and harder to do our best work for our clients.
I think you hit on a couple of things there. I think sort of this notion of there's a push and a pull. So a firm like ours has to have good pull factors, but there's also got to be a push factor on your end. And as you said there, some of the shifts there and moving away from perhaps the focus on the client and to the institution may have been the final straw from your perspective. Now, of course, changing firms is a huge undertaking for any advisor and their team. And so again, that's where you need that push and pull, because inertia is a very powerful force. And if you're going to make that change, it's going to be a lot of work over an extended period of time. Could you talk to me about some of the support you received leading up to, during, and after your transition? And what were the key factors from your perspective that made the transition a success?
Yeah, so the support from Raymond James was terrific. We did a series of Zoom calls in advance, talking about sort of the legal things, the account setups, the things that were different between the firms. So we felt very well prepared before we got to the big day. We certainly had an idea, again, how to migrate the existing accounts we had at the old place to the new place without any complications. So that was very important. Let me go back though and maybe answer your question slightly differently. The most important thing is having great client relationships before you think of doing anything. You need a clean book, great relationships, and a great team with a great process. So get your ship in order before you do anything. Once you've got that, then make sure you do some extensive due diligence before the move. Of course, you're going to talk to a bunch of firms. I'll give you a list of reasons why we picked Raymond James if you want later on. There's lots of them. And then we sat down with the group between the branch manager here, which was terrific. We met with Jamie and his leadership team. So you have a really good idea kind of what you're getting into. And you want to make sure that the grass is greener, truly at this side. One of the biggest and best differences for sure was the independence. Raymond James is a truly independent wealth management firm, the largest in Canada, which is really important to us. They have no proprietary in-house product. So again, no conflicts of interest. And something that Jamie told me, which really put me on my heels at first, we have walking power. You, the person watching this video, has walking power. They do not own your book. In your deal, it's going to say, if you want to leave the firm as an advisor, they're your clients, you take them. So the only motivation that Jamie and his team have is to do great work for you and your team so you can do great work for your clients. And that was a really important thing.
I appreciate you highlighting those factors, Mark. And so just coming back on a couple of comments you made as you're thinking about the success of the transition, I think the client relationship component is absolutely critical. So knowing that your clients will follow you along the way. You mentioned a clean book. Was there anything on the book side, on the book perspective, that you had to clean up on your end before making a move, or are there issues that perhaps you've seen in other advisor books that that they should look out for before they make a move from one organization to another?
So we went through a program 7 or 8 years before we moved, where we really cleaned up our book. We segmented it, really had, we don't have an 80-20 book. We don't have a bunch of A, B, C, D clients. We have A clients or you're not a client. Very different than what I understand most advisors have. So that was really helpful. Our goal was to bring over 119 families, and we brought over 119 families. We had 124 clients in total. We decided to leave 5 behind. We didn't think they were a good fit for us.
Yeah.
But some of the key things are, yes, you want to get your book organized, cleaned up. Make sure you've got great relationships. Now, some of the specifics, we had some, I'm not sure they were weird or complicated corporate accounts. There was a couple power of attorneys. There were some odds and ends like that that needed a little bit more work and a little bit more thought. Some simple stuff, like we had to figure out the legislation for LIRA accounts. Raymond James says something called an RTQ, which is what we used to call an IPS. Again, we just had to learn some of that language, and that process of dealing with the transition team was really helpful to make sure that we understood. There's a lady who came on from the compliance department explaining how the risk assessment thing is slightly different here from the old place. So again, we just had to get our heads wrapped around what the terminology was. So again, when we moved everybody over, you don't want to have to repaper them 3 months later when you've set them up all wrong. So that was very helpful.
That's a good perspective. Thank you for sharing that. One of the other things that I've observed watching an advisor move from one organization to another is that and this is, I think, one of the hesitance or points of hesitation, is an advisor at an existing firm, they know how to get things done at their current platform. And so there may be some issues, but if they've got some problem on a compliance issue or a client account documentation issue, they sort of know who to call to get that resolved. Was our team, and I got to say, broadly speaking, so the transition team and your branch management team, were they able to help you rebuild that network as part of your move?
Absolutely. One of the best things we did was we sat down with an assistant from an existing Raymond James team before we moved. And we said to that person, again, no names basis, confidentiality, of course, but essentially went through with them, how do you do these top 10 things that we do every day? What's the steps? Oh, that seems really easy. Oh my God, that's super fast. That's so much easier. We don't need approval. We don't need to make photocopy. No, that was fantastic. So what our team did, we said, what are the top 10 things that we need to do administratively, like every day? And what are the top 10 most frustrating things we deal with at the current location? And then we sat down with the Raymond James team and said, how do you guys do these things? Like really specifically. And what a shocking difference it was to go, oh my God, this is so simple. This is how it should be. So we were expecting to be quite a bit better, and we're very pleasantly surprised. It was even better than we'd hoped.
I think that's great. Thanks for sharing that story. That's talk about lifting the hood on the car and really taking a look at what makes the engine work on it. So I like that idea. Again, top 10 most common administrative sort of functions or tasks, and how do they do them at firm A, and how do you do them over here at our organization? And then that probably sets your team up for good success as part of the transition as well. So they've got some inside knowledge of how the new place works. Mark, we've spent a little bit of time talking about some of the sort of high-level transition strategy and moving a practice from one firm to another. But I know you and your team put some specific tactics into play as part of your move. I was hoping you could elaborate a little bit on that and what kind of specifically what you and your team did.
Thankfully, I have the most wonderful team with great teammates. So what we decided to do when we made the move, first of all, we did a lot of preparation in advance. We made it clear to our clients that the old bank firm was strictly the back office, that day. And we would move if we thought it was in the client's best interest. So we laid the foundation, all of our reviews, if we ever moved, why we would move. So it wouldn't be a complete surprise, and they would kind of understand the reasoning for the move. So when we decided on the actual day, my excellent assistant, Maria, arranged for me to call clients it was on the May long weekend. We had 30 calls per day for 4 days in a row. So imagine she phoned a client and said Jamie, would you and your wife please be available Sunday at 10:20 a.m. for a call from Mark? Oh, what's this all about? He's just got some news for you, something vague. And would you mind having your void checks and your IDs scanned and just available? Now, I'm going to say that 2/3 of our clients knew exactly what was coming, but we can't be any more forthright than that. So I phoned people, preset times, 119 people were ready. One person was at Costco, but everyone else is ready, and that made it very smooth. So the process went like this. I talked to the client. Oh, sorry, let me back up for 1 second. Here's another key thing. Because of COVID, of course, we were working from home. So all of our clients had our cell numbers, and so would pick up when this, I guess, new number would phone them. They would know that it was one of the three of us. So when I phoned them from my cell number, not the Raymond James number, which they wouldn't recognize, I phoned them from my cell, they would pick up, I would talk to them for 15 to 20 minutes. Why we moved, where we went, just some of the big pictures, answer any questions they had, like no tax impact, no fee change, no, that kind of big picture stuff. I'd get them to the yes. Yes, we want to move with you. I used a script. Then right away, Tracy would phone them back 60 seconds later. Tracy would gather all the information that we needed, SIN numbers and all the stuff you're not allowed to have and so on. So she would gather all that information. Then it would go to Maria, my assistant, and she would, bang, get the DocuSign signed, the whole thing. We had 2 preset emails already done in advance. Again, you don't want to be typing this on that weekend. You want to get those things done in advance. So the emails were a summary of the call we just had, a bit more detail, the next steps, what to expect, the time frame. It'll be this many days before the DocuSigns come out. It's going to be this many days before the accounts are open, and we expect your assets to be moved over in 3 weeks or thereabouts. Thanks and appreciation for joining us. And the second one was a team video. So we did this video of it was about 10 minutes long. And essentially, I thought to myself, what are all the questions they're going to have after we hang up the phone? Oh my God, he's moved. The whole team's moved. What did you say the name of that new firm was again? Oh my God, I forget. I didn't want them to phone me back. I wanted that video to kind of answer every possible question between tax and who Raymond James is and asset security and all the other ideas and issues. So that video was fantastic. We sent that out as the second email. Now there are a couple specific things. All RIF withdrawals, we did them in advance. So there was no RIF withdrawals necessary, which of course have to happen before that account can be transferred out. So those are all very important things. You want to get your team involved. You want to strategize. You want to think about every single client, all those unique things, whether they have corporate accounts or if it's a LIRA account. Again, no client on earth is going to remember what legislation their LIRA is. You need to make sure they've got that information. And you've got to be careful, make sure the rules are followed on what information you can take versus and so on. One thing you can do, of course, you can send anything to the client in advance that may be of value to you, when you need it for that weekend. So a really thorough preparation, very important. Make sure you've thought about the logical questions that clients are going to be concerned about, stressed about. You want to get on this and be very organized. You don't want the old firm phoning your clients before you do. You want to make sure you update your LinkedIn page immediately. You want to make sure that you've contacted them within that first 4 days. Pick a long weekend if you can. So it was fantastic. That preparation really made this transition smooth. And I don't know the exact numbers, Jamie, maybe you can clarify, but I think most advisors bring over the majority of their book within 3 to 6 months. Our number was amazing. We were 100% of assets in just over 4 weeks. So that to me was success because I have an incredible team and we had very thorough preparation.
Yeah, all the hard work in advance paid off. I think you set a new record actually in the moving a whole practice in about a month, particularly kicking off on a long weekend. Love that story. You've got one of your clients, in Costco. That's great. So no, those are wonderful tips and tricks, and again speak to the importance of being prepared, kind of mapping things out, and I think as you correctly pointed out, anticipating key questions from your client base to help them kind of settle into their new home. Thanks for sharing that. That's great. When advisors like yourself change a firm, They clearly don't do it on a whim. And you talked about a fairly extensive due diligence process that probably dated back some years, I think, in your particular case. But again, when you're making that change, as you said at the front end, you're doing it because you're pursuing a better future for your clients and your business. How has your business changed since you've joined Raymond James, and how has this benefited you, your team, and your clients?
Well, you're exactly right. We're a planning team. We take these things seriously. We're a detailed kind of group of people. So it took us a long time to pull the trigger. In retrospect, I wish we would have done it earlier. But that's hindsight, and you never know. You kind of hope that the existing place you're at will turn that big ship around, but then you realize it's really the Titanic and it's already hit the iceberg and it's sinking slowly. So there is no saving those big bank firms. They're not changing for the benefit of you or for your clients. So you kind of have to accept that. What we found though, when we made the move, was a re-energization of our clients. Like, thankfully, they love us, they like us a lot. They came with us, which we're very appreciative. We had very high net promoter scores at the old place, so we felt pretty confident, moving, but I'd never done this before. And it was a little scary, leaving, albeit I think a pretty lousy place in retrospect, but at least we knew how everything worked, and it was the devil kind of situation. One of the biggest surprises, Jamie, when we got here was how much it re-energized our relationship with those existing clients. We've had more referrals this year. This is now in our 13 months since we've moved. We've had more referrals in the past 12 months than any previous year ever. And I built my entire book by referral. And this completely caught me off guard. I assumed the first year was going to be nothing but hassles with tax slips and helping people figure out how to get on the new software and the online client access. And there's a little bit of that, of course, but it's not that big a deal. It isn't. What we found was it's a little bit like these clients and us. We renewed our wedding vows. And it's a little bit of like the spark came back, and all of a sudden there's been so this has been a really positive impact that we never expected. Now, back to the original question. The most important thing to us was what was best for the client. This is a wonderful business. We'll make lots of money kind of no matter where we're at. Most important thing to me, just for my sense of worth, frankly, and for the clients, is we're doing what's best for our clients at all times. We could not do that at the old place, and I don't think anybody can. I think if you're honest with yourself, you cannot act in the client's best interest, because you're going to have those bankers breathing down your neck to do things that you shouldn't do. So that was one of the most wonderful things that we got when we were here, that kind of freedom to do what was best for the client. The clients, we re-energized that relationship, and all that negativity that I was feeling at the old place, gone. It's wonderful. So we're so happy we made the change.
Well said. I appreciate you taking the time today, and Mark, and sharing your thoughts and experiences during the move, before the move, and after the move. And I'm really glad to hear that you, your team, and most importantly, your clients are happy at your new home.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. We're like I said, the only thing I wish that we did differently was we would have moved a few years earlier. But again, that's always a sign that it's a good move when you really look back and think, wow, that was wonderful. I'm glad we moved when we did.
Fantastic. Well, Mark, thanks again for joining me. And again, signing off here, Jamie Coulter, CEO of Raymond James Canada. And I just finished a nice discussion with one of our portfolio managers in our Calgary corporate branch, Mark Hougen. Mark, thank you very much for your time today.